Good yontiv, everyone. So, some 2,000 or so years ago, a certain Rabbi Yitzhak is studying the Torah, the Bible, and he comes across this line, Vayomer Adonai el Avram. God spoke to Avram and said, Lech lecha, go forth, ma'artzecha, from your native land, umi moledecha, from your birthplace, umi beit avicha, from your parents' home, el haaretz asher areka, to a place that I will show you. The place is Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. Well, Rabbi Yitzhak, though having read this line many times before, realizes that this is the first time in history that God speaks to the Jewish people. Avram, Abraham, and Sarai, Sarah are the first Jews. And Rav Yitzhak figures that the Holy One, blessed be that name, must have called to him at this time for a reason. Rabbi Yitzhak is curious. Why now? Why create Judaism? And so he asks his teacher, and his teacher tells him the following midrash story about someone who's traveling from place to place. And he sees a beautiful castle, and the castle is on fire. Is it possible that this castle lacks a person to look after it? Wonders the traveler. And just then, the owner leans out of the window and shouts, I'm the master of the palace. Similarly, Rabbi Yitzhak's teacher explains, Avraham Avinu, Abraham our father, and Sarah Imanu, Sarah our mother, were wondering at the time, there's so much chaos. There's so much violence. Is it possible that this world has no guide? No one to look after it? And just then, the divine presence calls to Avram at that very moment and says, I'm the master of the universe. This is what you're going to do and where you're going to go. Most scholars concur that the society in which Avram and Sarai lived at the time, and even today, was pretty pagan-like. It was full of danger and deceit and wickedness. It was worse than Vegas late on a Saturday night. So we can relate to Abe's bewilderment. He and Sarai are sensitive human beings, and they gaze at a beautifully structured universe, a splendid piece of art. And like us, they are overwhelmed by the grandeur of a sunset or by the miracle of childbirth. They marvel at the roaring ocean waves, at the silent, steady beat of the human heart. The world is a palace, but the palace is on fire. Humanity has filled the world with bloodshed and injustice and strife. There are murderers, rapists, killers, kidnappers, terrorists who continuously light the palace on fire, turning our world into an ugly, tragic battlefield of untold pain and horror. What happened to the owner of the palace? That's Abraham's cry. Why does God allow humanity to desecrate the world? Why does the divine spirit permit such a beautiful castle to go up in flames? Did God make the world only to abandon it? Would anyone hire an architect, hire a contractor, build a beautiful home, and then desert it? At the very least, you Airbnb it. Note that the owner of the palace in the ancient Midrashic story does not attempt to get out of the burning building. He does not attempt to extinguish the flames, merely stating that the castle belongs to him, even though it's going up in smoke. It's as if, instead of racing out, the owner was calling for help. God made the palace, humanity set it on fire, and apparently only humanity can put out the flames. Abraham and Sarah ask God, "Where are you?" And God replies, "I'm here. Where are you?" Humanity asks God, "Why did you abandon the world?" And God asks us, "Why did you abandon me?" Rabbi Getzel Davis writes, like Moses' burning bush, the burning world is a wake-up call. And we, like Abraham and Sarah, can encounter God amidst destruction. How long does it take to look at a burning building before you react? Like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4? If you were walking or driving down the street and you saw a burning building or a burning bush, what would you do? Would you keep going or call someone or stop to put it out? Abraham and Moses both stopped to gaze, to listen, and to witness the destruction. And both found God. It's been a rough year for the Jewish people especially. School shootings continue. A big election looms. War persists in Ukraine and in Israel on several fronts. Israeli and American hostages remain in captivity. The pain of October 7th is still fresh. College campuses are fraught with anti-Semitism. Nazis marched in the street in Nashville this summer. And all along, your clergy, your leadership have invited you to find comfort by both turning to our tradition and towards one another. At the core of our tradition are defining foundational stories, like the one found in the Exodus narrative, a statement of hope that leads us from the narrow places where we feel enslaved, trapped, into the wide expanse of freedom and hope for the future again. It's a tale we tell again and again and again. A legend that has inspired countless individuals and communities to hope for, to seek, struggle, and ultimately find their own liberations. We share this story to welcome everyone with open arms into our sacred spaces. We teach it to our children, many of whom know privilege, so that they will open their hearts to the suffering of others. We retell the story repeatedly to remind ourselves that in every generation, there will be both great challenges and great blessings. Here in this moment of crisis, how might we use the past and what we've learned to meet the challenges of today? Not just as the Micah community, and not just as the Jewish community, as the remarkable resilience, creative human race, of which we are all a part. When all the ordinary divides and patterns are shattered, writes Rebecca Solnit, people step up. Not all, but the great preponderance, to become their brothers and sisters' keepers. And that purposefulness and connectedness brings joy, even amidst death, chaos, fear, and loss. Finding purpose from out of chaos is echoed all throughout the Jewish historical experience. As a people, we have always found meaning responding to trauma and strife and evil by by building caring communities of connection and love, often leading to very unexpected blessings, like the founding of Congregation Micah itself. This year especially, like so many other synagogues locally and all around the world, we have been a lighthouse, a place to connect with each other when people felt lost and it all seemed so dark. We at Micah consider it a godsend to have someone to be kind to. So, if you're struggling, please know that your search for an accepting community is over. You have found us. And if you're not a member, consider joining. The Jewish people need you. We're a small people and history has made us smaller. Ask a current member. Joining Micah is the kind of decision you make that can affect every other decision in your life. Across the span of Jewish history, we Jews have experienced extensive upheavals, displacements, dispersions, persecutions, and violence to the point of attempted annihilation. And after each catastrophe, we have survived. We have grown stronger as a people and as a civilization, even when the prevailing paradigms were inoperable and we no longer knew how to understand ourselves in relation to God or to other Jews or to other peoples. Every time we have experienced a traumatic event, we have responded by breathing new life into our traditions. We don't just recover, we revision, we regenerate, we reseed Jewish life. Jewish history is, in many ways, like this service, a recurring cycle of crisis and renewal. It's about beginning again. When the temple in Jerusalem, the center of religious life, was destroyed in biblical times, our ancient sages reorganized Judaism around synagogues and home observances and schools. After Sephardi Jews were expelled during the Inquisition, Jewish mystics responded by creating Kabbalah. In the aftermath of the terrible massacres in Eastern Europe, Hasidic Judaism emerged. In the wake of European anti-Semitism, the world was gifted Spinoza's philosophy, Marx's political theory, Freud's psychiatry, Durkheim's sociology, Einstein's physics, Schoenberg's compositions. We know the list goes on and on. Facing unimaginable hardship in the Warsaw Ghetto, our predecessors organized secret schools, set up clandestine libraries. They maintained a vibrant cultural life with theater and music, and it's another testament to our determination to preserve our heritage and humanity even in dark times. It was crisis that gave rise to Zionism, the Jewish national movement, which ultimately created an independent Jewish state. Even as these developments are more complex than my summary suggests, there are also only a handful of examples of collective Jewish survival after trauma. And it's true for individuals too. Someone loses a job or a physical capacity or a spouse, and they are justifiably devastated. Their lives shattered. And somehow they find the strength, the will to start over, to begin again. Whatever challenges you face personally or professionally or physically, the Talmud states we should say 100 blessings a day. Whew, I know, it's a lot. Is it a legalistic and oppressive mandate? Or is it an invitation to the wisdom of practicing gratitude even when our days are filled with challenge and loss? The cycle of the Jewish year builds towards these Yamim Noraim, these days of awe, these holy days, when we at once reset the clocks on our year and through the practice of teshuvah, repentance, reset the moral compass of our lives. Feel blessed that you've made it this far. You couldn't possibly have done that without that very very powerful attribute that we find woven into the fabric of Judaism over thousands of years: resilience. Judaism's focus, both spiritual and practical, on helping people get on with living in the face of challenges and pain and tragedy has helped the Jewish people survive. Because resilience is not just like a personal quality that a few lucky folks possess. Each of us can develop the strength to live in this chaotic and often cruel world. Consider Abraham and Sarah. Tell your children their story. Research now shows that children who know their family stories, who know their people's stories, are more resilient than other children. Our knowledge of the Jewish national story may in fact contribute to the national resilience of the Jewish people. Here's another story to tell your kids. It was Jews who transformed the land of Israel from a barren wasteland into a thriving agricultural and tech powerhouse. Rising from the ashes of the Shoah, the Holocaust, our people began again, developing methods for crop cultivation and drip irrigation and advanced greenhouse farming, innovations that transformed the desert into productive farmland. Have you ever heard of Microsoft Windows? Know what an Intel computer chip is? Do you appreciate instant messaging? No need to mention all the unbelievable medical devices. Just tell your child what life was like when all we had was landline telephones. Everything I mentioned had significant research roots in Israel, and the resilience of Israeli society is on full display today, even during these times of such hard conflict. Civil society has stepped up where the government has fallen short. And this ability of Israelis to adapt in the face of adversity stands as yet another testament to our people's enduring spirit. Some people think that resilience is only about the ability to bounce back after stress, persevere through extreme adversity, hardship. It is so much more. Resilience is about becoming, not overcoming. I'm going to say that again. Resilience is about becoming, not overcoming. Resilient people act with intention and agency because they learn to navigate difficulties differently. And it's a quality here at Micah that we cultivate. One we believe can be strengthened, even chosen. And it requires an interdependence of two ostensibly opposite concepts: tenacity and flexibility. What two terms could be more descriptive of our Micah community? Here they are, some JLab students, right? Our religious school students helping to fulfill part of our mission, celebrating Jewish life. One of the antidotes this year to all the pain and hardship. A skyscraper can maintain its structural integrity in extreme winds and earthquakes only if it's flexible enough to sway slightly. It must bend, not break. The same is true of resilient people and communities. Their perseverance reflects their ability to adapt to adverse and often searing events rather than just rigidly endure them. And resilience today signifies not so much a reversion to a previous state or mindset as the creation of a new normal. It's how many of us Jews, both in Israel and throughout the diaspora, feel at this moment, nearly a year after October 7th. Why is it that even when the verdict of history could easily have been taken to indicate that Judaism had been defeated, or that God had concealed his face once and for all, or that God was simply dead or not real, why is it that a significant number of Jews have chosen to remain Jewish? Even when there are off-ramps. Why? Why, after all the cruelty and the agony, why do we resolve to carry on as Jews? Why are you here or watching tonight? Please do not have an expectation that God will reward your attendance or your perseverance with anything other than the blessing that this moment affords. Is it that without Judaism we may succumb entirely to hopelessness? Or is it something even more visceral, more instinctive? something that lies beyond the reach of explanation or justification, and stems not from reason and not from faith, but from our core intuition, what our people call our kishkas. As we each look to begin again as individuals, as a community, as a people, consider this. Resilience is connected to the word for silence and the word for salience. Whatever silences you, whatever you feel beyond language, let it propel you this year to find salience, a heightened sense of meaning and significance. Because the world's problems are not going anywhere. And at the same time, don't underestimate yourself, this community, our country, or our people. Time and again, we have found purpose in redefining who we are and what we care about. The mere fact that Judaism never petrified, that 3,500 years later, it isn't a museum relic, teaches us a lesson about its pliability, its agility, its strength, and its ongoing relevance. If I may be so bold as to finish by quoting Rabbi Ted Lasso, be grateful that we are going through this sad, hard time together, because there is something that's worse than being sad, and that's being sad and alone. And no one at Micah is alone. Tonight, we close the door on the year that was and open the one marked 5785. As you walk through, you are invited to use your imaginations to vision a better life for yourself, for your loved ones, for this community, and for this whole broken world. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. From the very bottom of my heart, on behalf of my family and this entire holy community, I want to wish each and every one of you a Shana Tova Tekatevu, a good year, a year of healing, of wholeness, of peace, and of joy. Good Yontif.
Good Yontif.